Grrr, bow, 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 bow. Grrr, bow, 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 bow. Welcome to yet another episode of the Born Free Network. We are the heirs of this democracy, and therefore, extremely important conversations need to be had. Now, without wasting any time, I want us to jump straight into it. Today is going to be jam-packed. Wasting any time, look at what's going on. Our most patriotic Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi is now facing charges. A certain lawyer who's representing three gentlemen, I'll go into those gentlemen just now, wants to level charges against Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. That's the first thing I want us to address today. The second thing that I want us to address today is the comments made by Cyril Ramaphosa at the summit for the Liberation People's Movements, the movements of the People's Liberations, whatever it's called. He got there in front of other global leaders and he said that South Africa is xenophobic. Now, I have seen the responses from people online. People are extremely infuriated by that. How dare our president go on a world stage and call us xenophobic for standing up for our facilities to make sure that we defend our resources as a country? That man goes and he stands on a podium and he says that we as South Africans need to look deeply at ourselves and address our xenophobia. So a lot of people are angry. A lot of people are angry about those comments. Understandably, I myself am also angry. But right now, I want us to currently look at what's happening with the case of the Lieutenant Mkhwanazi. Remember, guys, on the 6th of July, he stood up, he made accusations, allegations, which he had backed up with proof at the moment. And he told us that there is a certain cabinet member whose name has been included in a police file. And due to that, those police files haven't seen the light of day. And then after he made those allegations, people started dropping like flies left, right, and center. People all of a sudden started declaring relationships that we didn't know they had. So that was the start of all of this. Now, in response to that, it seems as if the old guard, in a final attempt to hold on to power, is launching a comeback against Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. So let's have a read at what's going on. I'll tell you what I think and what my views are after we've had a read and what's really going on. So let's have a look. They're saying here that Mkhwanazi accused of misconduct in seized Mercedes and Rolex's case. Written on the 28th of July by Setumo Stone. I don't know, is he South African or not? I guess we're yet to find out. All right, let's find out exactly what the article says. It says, a lawyer for three men accused of a kidnapping in September 2024. Underline that. Three men accused of kidnapping in September 2024. These are the people who are trying to lay charges against the Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. I'm not saying that if you're a criminal, you don't have the right to lay charges. All I'm saying is that it's pretty ironic that at a time when the Lieutenant General is bringing the House of Cards down about all of the criminal activities, the only people who are fighting back and are saying, look, the general did us wrong, is a group of other criminals. But okay, let me not digress. Let me focus on what's actually written here. They say that a lawyer for three men accused of the September 2024 kidnapping and a 35 million rand ransom demand for a businessman called Zak Desai. So these are the three men who apparently are launching this case. It's a gentleman called Ismail Moulid Ramos Nanji. Already, that is not a South African name. The next gentleman is Stefan Pereira da Costa. Also not a South African name. And then another gentleman is called Samgeli Somlotshwa. Okay, that's a South African name because there'll always be someone who's going to sell you guys out. We know that much. Okay. So what do they say here? They're saying that these gentlemen are opening a case. They have accused the KZN top police and the police commissioner of misconduct and procedural irregularities. All right. So the matter is related to an IPID investigation in which KwaZulu-Natal's top cop, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, and several other police officers are facing serious allegations, including torture, arson, perjury, and illegal extradition. Okay, I'm going to explain what all of this means and everything. Let's just read through the article and finish it. Right. So it says here, according to Arkangeli, that's their lawyer, police unlawfully seized an amount of personal property belonging to the accused, a significant amount, including luxury items such as Rolex watches. So whoever this guy is, he's a baller. He was wearing Rolex watches in this South African economy that we're all crying about. And what we have come to know is that people who are living decadently in the same economy are people who are involved in illegal activity. That much we have come to learn. But anyway, they are saying that this person's lawyer is saying that during the time that the police commissioner was dealing with them, he lost a Rolex watch, a Versace bracelet, a Mercedes Benz, and 53,000 rands in cash. The accused claimed that they were not provided with the requisite police slips, which are necessary for the return of seized property. So if you've ever been arrested, you know that before you go into a holding cell, the police will take basically an audit of what you have on you, a belt, your shoes, any type of cash that will be written down on a slip, and then you should use that same slip to collect your property when you leave. So they're saying that they didn't get that slip during this shakedown that was happening with the police commissioner. So in a letter that they've addressed to Captain Azze of the Directorate of Priority Crimes, the lawyer detailed the alleged misconduct, stating that police had failed to provide proper documentation for the seized items and had been unresponsive to attempts to arrange their return. So he says now, the impression that we are left with is that you are purposefully avoiding dealing with issues pertaining to our client's property, particularly the Mercedes Benz. He has since issued a formal demand for the return of the property within 5 days, warning that failure to comply will result in legal action at the Durban High Court. Right. Arkangeli has also suggested that the arrest and detention of his clients may have been unlawful, citing a lack of sufficient evidence to justify the charges. You know, somehow, man, criminals will always find a loophole. I'm not saying these gents are criminals because I don't know them, but I'm just saying that these are people who are accused of kidnapping a gentleman somewhere and demanding a 35 million rand ransom to let him free. And then the police are doing their job, trying to investigate them and interrogate them. And instead of letting them do their job, these people hire lawyers to say that they're being harassed. This is starting to become a certain pattern that we are realizing amongst people who are criminals. Whenever police try to do their job, they'll hit a call and saying, I'm being arrested. Isn't that what we noticed? Or isn't that what we noticed happening in the situation of Mr. Katiso Molefe, where he decided that these cops who were raiding his house must have been fake cops? So he called the Hawks and whoever that he called, the Metro Police, to try and ward off the arrest. Now, the same thing is happening now. We have criminals who are accused of being involved in a kidnapping, something similar to what happened to Cheribu Shocha. They're demanding a 35 million rand ransom. The police know about this, and during the interrogation, now they're being accused of having taken property from them. And now this is where it gets deeper and a bit more sad, shall I say. Right. He's saying that the withdrawal of charges has raised questions about the strength of the evidence. Right. The strength of the evidence and whether the police acted prematurely. The lawyer said that his clients will not tolerate any further delays or obstructions. He said that legal action could result in significant costs for the state and further damage to the reputation of the police. On Saturday, the lawyer said with regard to Mkhwanazi that his clients would not comment due to the seriousness of the allegations and the ongoing commission of inquiry. Okay, so let's just break down what has happened here, right? What we have seen is that there's a certain gentleman called Zach Desai. I'm just trying to give you guys a brief overview. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because YouTube might be trying to limit this type of a message going out. So I would like to please beg you guys, make sure that you share this video with anyone that needs to hear it. Make sure that you like this video and most definitely do subscribe to this channel. So, right, let me get into it. Our patriotic general, Mkhwanazi, is now being accused of misconduct. So let me give you what the story basically says. So there's a businessman called Zach Desai, right? Zach Desai was abducted, kidnapped, and his kidnappers demanded a, let me come back to this page. His kidnappers demanded a 35 million rand ransom to set him free. Now, I don't know about you, but normal people don't walk around with 35 million rands to just pay people. Okay. So, what happened is his family reported the crime to the police, and then the police were like, fine, we're going to investigate. During their investigation, they found that this gentleman was taken by 3 other gentlemen. These are the gentlemen that are opening the case against Mkhwanazi, right? Now, these 3 gentlemen, 2 of them are foreigners to South Africa. One is a Pereira, one is a Nanji. I suppose that these people are from Mozambique because Mozambique is the one with the heavy Portuguese influence. And even with the extradition charge that they want to bring up against not the president, against the police commissioner, they're saying that he illegally fetched him from Mozambique to hold him accountable to his crimes here in South Africa. But anyway, these 3 gentlemen were the ones who were responsible for the abducting, kidnapping, and the ransom demand for Zach Desai. Okay. So the police decided to follow up. They found these 2 gentlemen in Mpumalanga, the ones who were accused of the kidnapping. And then they decided, in typical Zulu fashion, a private conversation which involves kinetic energy, if you guys know what I'm saying. So they took them. The interrogations got a little bit too intense because apparently during the interrogations, they were using some torture methods which border on being illegal. So I'm a bit conflicted about that because even though we should practice compassion towards humans, but also we have to be realistic, man. If somebody has done a gross crime, like abducting somebody, kidnapping them, tying them up, putting them in a boot, stripping them from their family, putting them somewhere far where they can't have access to anyone, you have committed a grave crime. You've taken this person out from their family. They could potentially be a breadwinner. You don't care about that. It's all about you, right? But now when the police come back with equal force to match what you have done, all of a sudden you're opening a case and you're saying that the police are torturing you. Okay, what about the torture that Mr. Desai is experiencing right now? So the timing of this case for me raises eyebrows, right? It's raising eyebrows because they always knew about this. This is something that happened in September 2024. They could have raised this case with the police at any point. They could have decided to take this investigation and process it before waiting 9 months for General Mkhwanazi to have a press briefing and then deciding that, hey, they might have acted illegally on that particular day. So you recognizing that it's a crime in retrospect, it's actually opening room for doubt. We're doubting the authenticity of these claims. I think this government is taking us for a ride, and as South Africans, it is our duty to say, the ride stops here. We are getting off of this station. You're not taking us for a further ride. We have been on a 31-year ride, just riding with these guys who have been managing the government purely of vibes. No structure, nothing. And then at one point, when a whistleblowing patriotic police general decides to stand up and expose the rods, then the IPID decides to launch an investigation against him. Let's go a bit deeper into that. If you guys remember clearly, the IPID is like an independent wing that investigates the police. They only report directly to the Minister of Police. The same Minister of Police that is currently on a special leave for being involved and being in bed with criminals. So this case that's suddenly now surfacing because the minister is on a special leave and our general is exposing the rot, we ought to question it as South Africans. We ought to use our minds. And now, this actually segues me into the next part of this video. These people who are opening this case against the police general, Mkhwanazi, these are all foreigners. As you have just read right now in this article, it's a Pereira, it's a Nanji, it's a Arkangeli, and then there's one Mr. Mlotshwa involved. So yet again, in this country, we are letting the interests of internationals dominate over the interests of us as natives. Look, man, I sympathize with whatever happened to you. It's not nice to be gagged and arrested and attacked and beaten up. It is not nice, right? But you cannot bring this case up at a time when the police general is busy dismantling the mafia in this country. If you're bringing that up at a time when the general is dismantling the mafia in this country, to me, it simply means you're an enemy of progress. You stand on the other side of what we are trying to achieve as a country right now. So personally, as a born free, and I hope for you born frees as well, we reject this motion to try and criminalize our general. We reject this motion immediately, expeditiously. We do not want to see any more of this rhetoric circulating. We know how you guys operate. It's actually been termed lawfare. As you know, there's warfare, but this is war through utilizing the law. So therefore, it's called lawfare. We cannot allow the government to continue to unleash lawfare where they feel like it. Our constitution is not impartial. Our constitution is probably the most awake constitution of all constitutions in the world. It has eyes. It can see color. It can see status. It has a brain. It understands nuance, context, and history. It seems like our constitution seems to bend and sway depending on who it's dealing with. That's why we're saying that this is a form of lawfare, and we as South Africans categorically deny this. We no longer want to see any of this nonsense. Please stop trying to criminalize our police general for your own purposes. We get it now. Now, what's more infuriating is the fact that the people that are accusing our general, these are people who are foreigners to South Africa. These are people from Mozambique. Mr. Mlotshwa is, of course, from here, but he was a police officer who had committed a crime. Any police officer who is suspected of being involved in a kidnapping, you are the enemy. You are the type of person that makes us feel unsafe here in South Africa. So I, as a born free, I categorically deny all of this. I do not accept this as being a reality. But more than that, the fact that foreigners, guys, I'm not xenophobic. All of us here are not xenophobic. But right now, if you're a law-abiding citizen and you're in your country, bound by the laws of your borders, and you're respecting the constitution of your country, whether economically, socially, and every other way that exists, then it's only fair that you demand other people as well to carry out that same level of respect for your constitution. It's not fair that I, as a South African man, stand more chance of being arrested and sentenced for committing an illegal activity more than a foreigner. A foreigner is most likely to commit something illegal, and then when it's time for repercussions, they'll realize there's no paperwork involved. They'll let him go back and repeat it again. So now a lot of people don't understand what's up with the special treatment from people who are foreigners. Why do we treat foreigners of this country so specially? And look, I was sitting down thinking about that for a long time, and it actually led me down a very interesting rabbit hole. You guys, let's go into the Cyril Ramaphosa situation quickly. He was at the podium for the summit of the liberation movements of the people. So he was at the podium and he said on the podium, South Africans need to deal with their xenophobia. He's talking expressly to organizations such as March and March, Operation Dudula. He's saying that those organizations are xenophobic organizations. Now, the use of words, I gotta give that a name as well because there's lawfare and whatever. I'll call that verbal fare for now. Verbal fare, where they fight using words. It's not xenophobia, it's patriotism. You describing what I'm doing with the wrong word, it's giving it the wrong uh advert. It's giving it the wrong point of view for whoever's out there. I am not xenophobic, I am patriotic. I have not gone out of my way to make the lives of people who are foreigners difficult. No, I have only gone out of my way to make the lives of people who are nationals easier. That's where the line comes. We need to stop allowing these people to control the narrative, control the words that we use, because the words that we use affect your psychology. They can make you feel like it's a bad thing to defend the resources of your country, knowing very well that you're the one who pays tax. It's your family that pays tax. It's your family whose blood was shed to create what we know as the reality of South Africa today. But as soon as you show a shred of patriotism, that patriotism is used against you and is called xenophobia. So that's the first thing that we have to reject as the Born Frees. We have to reject the utilization or the weaponization of language against us. Stop weaponizing my patriotism by calling it xenophobia. Right? Stop trying to weaponize my protective nature by calling it homophobia. If I don't want somebody who practices unsavory sexual behaviors to be the one educating my child about those behaviors, that doesn't make me homophobic. That doesn't make me transphobic or whatever phobic. That makes me protective of my child. That makes me a parent. What's happening right now is they want to destroy any level of boundaries, any type of protection, any type of knowing what's wrong from right. It's a total subversion of the truth and what we understand to be the truth. And I know I'm going deep right now, but stay with me because I'm taking you somewhere. The comments that were made by President Ramaphosa do not come as a unicorn, as I love to say. It's not a unicorn occurrence. This is something which is right now ubiquitous across all the governments of the world. Most governments seem to be working actively against the people who are the actual citizens of the country. Now, right now, it seems that they are favoring outsiders and specifically people who have come into the country illegally. So while I was listening to that speech by Ramaphosa, allow me to read this little part, guys. I don't often read a lot during our streams, but I wrote this part down because I felt very, I felt very hot about it, bro. I wanted to use another word, but hot. I felt hot about it. He said, we need to stop with the weaponization of migration, right? He says that migration is a consequence of underdevelopment. Okay? War. And the people are actually moving in search of hope. So we need to be more. And I can't even see what I wrote here. I kind of got very pissed. But what he means is these people are only moving from their countries because their countries are underdeveloped. Now, the great part about this speech is he was making this speech at the Summit for Liberation Movements, where there's Frelimo and all these other ANC-like organizations from all over these countries. So instead of telling his friends, guys, fix your countries so that your people don't leave and come to our country, he says, no, you guys don't fix your country. The problem is South Africans. South Africans are xenophobic. They are the ones who need to work on themselves. They need to fix themselves. You guys don't fix your country. Don't fix your borders. Don't fix your military. Don't fix your health facilities. Don't fix your education systems. Don't fix your finances. Don't fix anything. Just let everyone come through to South Africa. We'll handle them. This is a summit for the People's Liberations Movements, people who have done the same thing that the ANC has done to their countries, like here in Mozambique, Frelimo, and all the other liberation movements. Instead of telling them, guys, we now have control over our countries, let's take better care of them so that people stop moving in between borders and violating our countries. No. He tells the leaders of those countries, go back home and tell your people that South Africans need to stop being xenophobic. Now I can understand why people are extremely pissed off about that. Because Operation Tutula is on the ground, day in, day out, fighting to clean up our clinics, fighting to clean up our hospitals, fighting to clean up even our education system, to try and make sure that there is enough space and resources to go around for actual South African citizens. I don't think you understand just how unfair that is. How could I spend 30% of every single rand that I earn to give to the government in hopes that the government is supposed to provide me with the services that I need to continue to make a life for myself? But instead of taking that money and providing me with the services that I need to make a life for myself, that money seems to be stuck at a certain elite and is being misappropriated, given to causes that I have no interest in whatsoever. When he closed off his speech, he said something very powerful, which is what's going to segue us into the next part of this conversation. He said, our struggle for freedom was international in its nature. He says that our struggle for freedom was achieved by the efforts of many countries globally, right? He said it was the efforts of many countries united that gave us the freedom that we experience in South Africa. And I think that in that little speech, when he said that, he then gave us a clue as to what's really going on. Who controls Ramaphosa? Why does Ramaphosa, every time that he speaks, why does he seem to say things that infuriate South Africans? Why does he always say things that are not in line with what South Africans are feeling? He's actually seemingly against South Africans. This is the same person who ordered the killing of South African miners at Marikana just because they wanted a raise. He said, no ways, no raise, no pays. Kill those guys. Using the police yet again. So the connection between Cyril Ramaphosa and the police has been always there and clearly established. But now I want to move on to the next phase of it. Look at this. Guys, I took some time to actually do some preparation here. So I hope that you guys are going to enjoy, and not just enjoy, but benefit from this, right? So President Cyril Ramaphosa, as you can see right there, very central to everything. President Cyril Ramaphosa. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show the link that Ramaphosa has to all the global powers that actually tell Ramaphosa what to do. Because I see a lot of people, when they're dealing with the Ramaphosa issue, they seem to think that Ramaphosa is an idiot. They seem to think that he has no ill intentions. He's just somebody who's maybe overwhelmed with the job. I feel like even the name of Cupcake, it takes away from the severity of what this person is doing to us as South Africans day by day. We should not be calling this man Cupcake. So I see a lot of you guys think that, oh no, Ramaphosa must be an idiot or he's incompetent. No, he's not incompetent. Ramaphosa is in bed with some of the most powerful human beings in the world. And I'm going to try and explain to you how South Africa even got within the grasp of these extremely powerful people. Now, you need to understand something. These are extremely sensitive topics. When you start speaking about stuff like this, that's when you know that you're going to start experiencing network issues, or YouTube is going to send you an email and talk about monetization and stuff like that. So please make sure you like this video. Please make sure that you share it with anyone that needs to see it. And most importantly, do subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out on anything like this ever again. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to show you where does Ramaphosa fit in the global scheme of things, and why does he behave in a way that is opposite to what South Africans want. And I'm also going to show you which arms of governance is he using to achieve this. I think this video might be really deep for some people. So if you have a pen or a paper close to you, please take it out. Or if you can make mental notes, it is about to get extremely deep. Because even right now in this page that I'm showing you, surely you can see a couple of names that you already know, and you might be very shocked as to what's the actual connection. So I'm going to go into it and try and explain to you what's up in South Africa. All right. I'm actually going to start here, guys. I'm going to start here with a timeline, right? I'm going to start here with a timeline. Excuse me, guys. I did a lot of research for this video, so I don't want anyone to miss out on the various things that we're going to speak about here. All right. So, excuse me. With this video, what I'm trying to do is to paint the link for you guys to understand who are Ramaphosa's handlers. Not just Ramaphosa's handlers, but the people who actually control this country. So that you guys can understand that Julius Malema can't do anything for you. Jacob Zuma can't do anything for you. The fight that we are fighting is global. The fight that we are fighting extends far beyond the union buildings. The fights that we're fighting extends far beyond the differences between your party, the ANC, EFF, MK, DA, whatever it is that you side with. This is going to show you why they are trying so hard to keep South Africans divided. Because once South Africans unite under one banner of understanding the real enemy, that's where issues are going to really arise. So, okay, I'm going to try to not go too deep. I'm going to start this history at 1992. As you can see, that's where this timeline ends, in 1992. So I'm going to try to not go too deep because I don't want to lose you guys. I understand that we're going to have many sessions together, so you're always going to be welcome to come view some of the information, and we're going to reshare it again on another stream. All right. So in 1948, there is a concept called apartheid, which was introduced into South African government. A lot of you guys understand apartheid to have been the economic segregation of different racial groups, right? Not just economic, but even spatially. We were separated, everyone to their own little corner of South Africa. This was the year 1948. This was the brainchild of a gentleman called Hendrik Verwoerd. As you can see right there on the right of the screen, he was the president of South Africa, and he was the president of the National Party. And of course, he was the genius, they call him, the genius behind apartheid. So in 1948, when apartheid was introduced, South Africa became a global powerhouse in terms of economics. If you go and check out what the stats were saying in terms of 1 rand versus a dollar, you're going to see even in the previous videos that I did, the South African rand was at some point equal to 2 United States dollars, right? So that means that we were 200% stronger than the United States economy. Unfortunately, because of the next step in our timeline, you're going to see how things drastically change. So in 1961, this same gentleman, Hendrik Verwoerd, said that South Africa needs to become a republic. So I'm not sure if you guys know what a republic is. If you don't, it's fine. I'm going to explain to you just now. Make sure you like the video. A republic is a country that is independent, a country that is not dependent on a monarch. So here in South Africa, we were called the Union of South Africa, and our head of state was actually the Queen of England, or King Charles currently, right? So we didn't have our own policies, we did not have our own president or anything of that nature, right? So in 1961, when the founder of apartheid went to England and he told the Queen, South Africa no longer desires to be a part of the Commonwealth, That's when South Africa became a republic in 1961, right? So when they became a republic, the Commonwealth being an international economy, they decided, okay, we need to issue serious sanctions to South Africa. They need to not be allowed to do any form of trade with any other country. They need to not be allowed to even get out of South Africa, not even take a flight. These Afrikaners are a problem. And so that's where South Africa got hit with a bunch of sanctions for them choosing to be an independent country that was out of the rule of globalist systems. What they used, they said the apartheid system was immoral, and therefore South Africa needed to be punished for this immoral practice, right? But actually, their real concern was the fact that they could no longer pillage the South African economy. They could no longer take our resources without anybody saying, "Oh, hold up, where's our share?" Because under the Union of South Africa, mining rights, all types of property, all of that, that was all real estate, royal estates, estates of the queen. That's where real estate comes from, by the way. Real means royal in Spanish, like Real Madrid, because it's a football club that belongs to the royals of Spain. So at that time, we didn't have a say over how our resources get distributed. Anyway, when Hendrik Verwoerd did that and removed South Africa from the Commonwealth, it became a bit of an issue. South Africa was then removed from the international community, as you guys all know, right? And then in the year 1990, I'm just kind of going over this, but there's a lot more nuance that happened in between these years. But I want to get straight to the point about Ramaphosa, who controls him and why he's moving like this. In the year 1990, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was released from prison. And in the year 1992, he took the then president of South Africa, F.W. de Klerk, and they went to attend a meeting in Davos, Switzerland. Why were they going to Davos, Switzerland? Right. Now we're coming into the big boys. They were going to Davos, Switzerland because they wanted South Africa to be reaccepted into the world economy. Okay? They needed South Africa to yet reaccepted into the world economy. Remember what happened when they removed themselves from the Commonwealth. They got hit with major sanctions as a punishment for not towing the line. So for all those years, the South African government was sanctioned by all international powers because they did not believe in the system of governance that we had running in South Africa. One, they called it immoral. They said that the treatment of Black people as being subhuman was unacceptable. But the deeper underlying cause, now that you guys know that this world is run by criminals, the deeper underlying cause is that they were mad that they now had to account for the resources that they take out of South Africa. All of a sudden, now there needs to be paperwork involved. Now there needs to be the empowerment of a certain other group of people. So that became the issue. South Africa then got sanctioned. Years later, in 1992, after Mandela was released, he then said, F.W. de Klerk, let us go to Switzerland. Let us go to the World Economic Forum. Let us go and beg for South Africa to be reaccepted into the global economy. Okay? So that happened. They were accepted into the global economy because the World Economic Forum is basically an international NGO. Let me actually just read for you guys what it actually is, right? What is the World Economic Forum? Why would the presidents of South Africa, along with Nelson Mandela, go and beg to be a part of it? The World Economic Forum is an international non-governmental organization that is based in Geneva, Switzerland. It is best known for their annual meeting in Davos, where all the global elites, including politicians, business leaders, academics, and celebrities, gather to discuss the world's most pressing issues. Right? This is a forum started in the year 1971 by a gentleman called Klaus Schwab. So let's have a look. Who's this Klaus Schwab? All right. That's Klaus Schwab. Forgive me, guys, with the producing my own show. You know, I'm new to this. This is only our 6th stream. Thank you to everyone that has joined us. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed to the channel. We're growing at an amazing rate, so I really, really appreciate that. Okay, have a look here. So this is a gentleman called Klaus Schwab. This guy is the founder of the World Economic Forum, which is based in Geneva, Switzerland. So in 1992, our president, Nelson Mandela, went to Davos. As you can see here, Nelson Mandela, the president of South Africa, he's pictured with this gentleman, Klaus Schwab. He went to the World Economic Forum in 1992 to beg for the re-inclusion of South Africa into the world economy. They got the deal done, and since then, every single South African president has had to go to the World Economic Forum to pledge allegiance. As you can see right here in front of you, we see President Nelson Mandela, he went to the World Economic Forum. President Thabo Mbeki, he went to the World Economic Forum, and even President Jacob Zuma went to the World Economic Forum. So the World Economic Forum holds a vast amount of power in terms of making a country have access to the global economy, right? But there's a lot more sinister stuff happening with World Economic Forum. Why is the World Economic Forum so powerful? Guys, we're going into some other deep uncharted territory here. Things that you probably have never seen on YouTube. Please like the video. Please share it with someone else that might want to see this information. I will say again that this type of information is probably being limited by YouTube. They don't want a lot of people knowing this type of stuff. And they definitely don't want South Africans knowing this type of stuff at this time. So please ensure that you're sharing this video. Make sure that you like it and you subscribe to the channel. So what is an NGO and why do people choose to operate NGOs? Because right now, our whole president, a government, went to beg a non-governmental organization just to include them in their forum. And that shows you that the level of power here is not something normal, right? If President Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, and Jacob Zuma all go there year by year to pledge allegiance, it's clearly a powerful organization. So why do people open NGOs in any case, right? NGOs carry crazy tax benefits, right? Let's just read what they're saying here. They're saying that NGOs are often tax exempt or they enjoy reduced taxation on income, donations, and assets. They also have access to public funding, which means that governments can give money to NGOs. Right? Understand what I'm saying? For businesses, for a government to give you money, it has to be a certain contract, a certain whatever service that you're going to tender. But as an NGO, the government can just decide to donate to you because they love your idea as an NGO. So that's also one of the biggest things. These NGOs know how to siphon money out of governments, and they use other tactics like their international cartel to pressure governments to be a part of this system. But I'm trying to just paint a picture of what this NGO is and why anyone would pledge allegiance to an NGO, even to the detriment of their own people, right? So an NGO has access to public funding, immense tax benefits, donor incentives. So donors can receive tax deductions for their contributions as well. So this is what happens when you see Motsepe have the Motsepe Foundation and he tells you, oh yeah, I'm going to give away 500 million to Motsepe Foundation. What is actually happening is that he is avoiding being taxed the capital gains off of that money, maybe 30% or more. So he says, I'm going to donate all of this money to a foundation that I run and control in any case. And then that foundation doesn't need to pay taxes to the same level that I pay. They probably pay 7% tax as opposed to a 30% tax. So foundations are another form of money laundering and hiding money from governments. At the same time, they also can take money from governments. So I'm sure you can see that if you're a corrupt official and you have access to some money that probably shouldn't be leaving your office, you can always claim that it's been donated to a certain NGO. But nonetheless, I don't want to go there too much, right? So they also have regulatory leniency. So NGOs typically face way less regulation than actual businesses, especially in developing countries like here in South Africa. All right. So now you guys see a bit of a link. We're still drawing it. Don't worry. Don't cry. World Economic Forum. Mandela went to beg in the year 1992 alongside F.W. de Klerk for us to be reintroduced into the World Economic Forum. He did that after Hendrik Verwoerd had got us cancelled from the international community due to the apartheid policies, right? Cool. So remember, all of this that I'm drawing, I'm trying to get you guys to understand why is Cyril Ramaphosa so anti-South Africans? Why is Cyril Ramaphosa so anti-South Africa? But now you're going to come to an understanding, right? So if this World Economic Forum is the one that gave South Africa access to the global market, don't you think that South Africa then gave the global markets access to it via making this deal? So it was a quid pro quo, right? It said, listen, allow us to come back into the global economy, and then we're going to allow the global economy to come into our country and trade. Fair deal. As you can see, what has happened since we've been reintroduced into the world economy through the World Economic Forum, right? But I want you guys to firstly understand something in relation to the World Economic Forum, right? I want you guys to understand what are their goals as an organization, because we see the hands that they have in other people's organizations and the massive amount of influence that they wield, but we don't really know what is their goal as an organization. And I think it's very important for us as an organization to firstly find out, where do these guys get their money? How are they paying the bills month to month? So we've come to understand that they're an NGO. They take donations from governments, businesses. Well, donations. It's actually a protection fee. If you're a South African, you know how protection fee works. So they take donations from governments, politicians, celebrities, and business owners, because they kind of dominate the international market. But what are their goals as the World Economic Forum? So upon a bit of digging, you will find that the World Economic Forum is very often viewed as the engine of globalist ideology. Okay? They're very much viewed as the engine of globalist ideology. Why? Because they advocate for open borders. They advocate for multilateral governance. They advocate for climate change mitigation. They advocate for technocratic control over public policy. They advocate for gender and identity-based inclusion policies. Goddamn! Let's go in a little bit deeper here, right? Open borders. Tell me something. Isn't South Africa currently experiencing a problem with open borders? Do you not see how the Beitbridge border is left open on purpose? These people are being allowed to flood in from Malawi, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, wherever they want to flood in from. I almost said Botswana. Lies. Botswana people don't flood in. They just come in properly. That government actually follows the law. So these other people are being allowed to flood into this country, not because the government is unable to deal with the issue. No, that's not the real case. The issue is the government is part of a global community, right? A global community called the World Economic Forum, a global community that Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk went to beg for South Africans to be a part of. So as I said, the was open South Africa up to global economies, and we're going to open South Africa up for global economies, right? 2 and 4. Open South Africa up for global economies, and we're going to open South Africa up to global economies. Hence why you're seeing this influx of undocumented illegal immigrants from every country in the world. Bro, I'm even talking people from Bulgaria. They just come into South Africa however they want. You run into somebody, they'll tell you, oh no, bro, don't worry, I'm from Latvia. Latvia! I can't even point where that is in the map. How did you even find out where South Africa is? So far from your country to come here. But that's because we're part of this international community called the World Economic Forum. So now let's investigate their goals. One of their goals is open borders. Now, guys, listen here, yo, goes deep, right? One of their goals is open borders, right? But we're going to go into why their goal is that. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's more than just their goal being that, but there's a why to that goal. And we're going to get into that. It's all part of this chart. And I'm going to try and speed it up right now because I understand that I've taken a lot of your time, but I appreciate you joining the live stream. Please do like and make sure that you also do subscribe to the channel. This is the Born Free Network. Important content will always be had. Okay, so open borders. That's an issue that we're currently noticing right now in South Africa. But open borders is a goal of the World Economic Forum. They want mass migration across the world. I'll explain to you why they would love that. But it's mostly towards the destabilization of existing nations. Because the biggest threat to globalization is its opposite, which is nationalization. That's why there is such a concerted effort in making sure that all existing nations, races, and all types of identities that are rooted in you being able to defend yourself, they destroy all of that. If you think that you are going to stand together because you guys share a religion, they destroy your religion. If you think you're going to stand together because you share an ethnicity or you share a nationality, they will destroy that as well. So that's one of their goals. Open borders are meant to dilute populations so as to limit the amount of resistance. How are armies formed? When people go and fight alongside each other and say, you're my brother, we're fighting for a common cause, we have to be united by something that's a higher ideal than both of us. It has to be religion, it has to be in defense of our motherland, it has to be in defense of our families, it has to be in defense of something. But if our communities are diluted to a point where you can't even speak to your neighbor because you don't know them, you guys share nothing in common, that is exactly the state that the government wants, because once you get there, you and your neighbor can't fight to defend each other or fight to defend against the state. Second one, multilateral governance. Multilateral governance is what we saw taking place during COVID, where the World Health Organization and the United Nations were the ones taking powerful decisions that could override what your local government wants. Even if you didn't vote for the World Health Organization, you didn't vote for the United Nations, not the IMF, not the World Bank, you didn't vote for any of these global powers. But through their multilateral governance, they could make decisions that affect your reality in your country. That's what multilateral governance is. And we came to experience the first dose of it in 2020, when we realized that governments who have been fighting for hundreds of years, who can't agree on anything, suddenly they were able to agree that we should all wear a mask to protect ourselves from the common cold. That's how you know that your government is not real. The real government is the global government that sits above your government, controlling your government through the flow of finance, the flow of information. They are the ones who, even the flow of violence is controlled by the global economy. There's no way that your particular country can take its own direction, its own economic policy, one that strays away from the global consensus. Because guess what? The Secretary General of NATO is a member in good standing of the World Economic Forum. So when he gets caught up and gets told, brother, it is time for us to press the red button on X country, he knows what time it is. Let's look at the next goal, climate change mitigation. Like, I almost said climate change is a scam, but you know, YouTube might flag that as misinformation. So let's say that climate change for now doesn't make a lot of sense, because we're saying that things that we take from the earth, or elements that we take from the earth, we use them, are now polluting the earth. The same earth that gave us those elements is now being polluted by those same elements. And therefore, you need to pay more tax. You need to allow us more controls over your life. So that, does it make sense? So that these elements become less dangerous to the earth. No, it doesn't make sense. But it's just another form of control, mind and physical. They say that the ultimate goal, I don't know, I've never proven this, but they say that the ultimate goal of this climate change agenda is once they create an external existential threat that they can deem as something that's a threat to everyone in the world. Because right now they're saying that the end goal of climate change is there are going to be severe changes in the weather, right? Now, severe changes in the weather could mean anything from earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, things that we have come to realize can all be artificially manufactured using bombs, using cloud seeding, using all types of things. So, climate change mitigation is a preparation for your mind that one day some big global threat is coming and we're going to need the world government to work together to protect us from it. Now, I know that's a bit wild, but just write it down somewhere because that's real. That's the reality of where they're taking it. And then they say technocratic control over public policy. Guys, I don't know if you've noticed where you go online and you try and write something that you know very much is true, like especially me. I've been someone who's been fighting authorities, people who are evil, for the lack of a better term, people who are perched up on the highest positions that they don't deserve and who are using their power in the wrong way. I've been fighting against those people since you guys ever knew me. So my only voice to express myself has been online. Sometimes I would write something extremely powerful and potent, poignant stuff that's supposed to go out there for the people, and it gets limited by the reach. Remember, they just say that this post is misinformation. I remember during a time in COVID-19, I was one of the people who were telling doctors, friends of mine who are doctors, I was telling them, guys, listen here. There's not enough conclusive research to tell us what C19 is or isn't. I'm going to try not use that term because that could flag the stream itself. I was telling them there's not enough information of what this influenza is right now. So for you to be telling us what direction we should take and what steps we should take, it's kind of dangerous because you don't know. And it came to be proven after a while that, of course, us, the people who were questioning the narrative, we were right. All the people who took the shots and everything, unfortunately, they fell victim to the technocratic control over public policy, where people who had louder voices, actual doctors who had researched the virus, when they started to tell you guys that's not how the virus works, they were limited. All of their posts were flagged as misinformation. All of a sudden, there were new controls that were developed by Meta and to show you guys now that this is misinformation, community noting stuff. So all of that is decided at the highest level when they sit down with these technology bosses and they bring them in and they tell them, Mark, listen here, my brother, we need you to start promoting more homosexual content for men of this age. We need you to start promoting more feminism content for women of this age. So as you understand right now, all our perceptions and our understandings of the world are formed by the power of technology, whether it's your YouTube, whether it's your Twitter, whether it's your TikTok, wherever you're receiving the information is simply just a technology platform with a CEO, and the CEO pledges allegiance to the World Economic Forum. And then the last one saying gender and identity based inclusion policies. Guys, the World Economic Forum, why are they so focused on making sure that gay people have the right to express themselves? Why are they so focused on making sure that women have a right over their body, my rights? They tell you that you have the right to have an abortion. Don't worry. It's not your responsibility to have sex, but an abortion, don't worry. We will sort you out. The World Economic Forum actually pushes for policies like that. Planned Parenthood, very closely linked to the World Economic Forum. But I'll show you how all of that works. So the reason why we're reading these 5 points, which are the agenda of the World Economic Forum, I'm trying to draw a parallel for you guys to be able to understand why does Cyril Ramaphosa always say and do things which seem to be completely opposite to what we as actual South Africans want. This is because what we want doesn't matter. This man is part of the international community, which is the World Economic Forum, And the World Economic Forum dictates to him what can and cannot be policy. So if they say open borders, you as Ramaphosa, you must come back to us and tell us as South Africans, stop being xenophobic. We need to allow our brothers and sisters to enter this country at any point, utilize our services, and even overburden them and even leech from them. If ever you say something, even in the slightest, against that, that's when you're going to see just how powerful the international club is. Now, I know you guys think, Ramaphosa, you weak, bro. Why are you being taken like this? It's not like that, bro. I'll show you who else is involved because it's not even a Ramaphosa thing. Check this out. Yep. Look at this. Look at this. Right. What are you seeing right now? What you're seeing in front of you are people who are members in good standing of the same international community that controls not just Ramaphosa, but any other country that has accepted the globalist agenda. So how do you know they've accepted the globalist agenda? You just go back to those 5 points that we've spoken about. Open borders, gender-based inclusion policies, multilateral governance, and the other 2 that I just forgot about. But they're right there. Luckily, you can rewind and go and see that. But right now, what I want to show you is who else is a member of this international community, and perhaps show you just how difficult it would be for South Africa to remove itself from the shackles of the World Economic Forum, because they themselves are a cabal that represents another cabal. But I don't want to add too many layers to it. I just want you guys to know now there's something called the World Economic Forum, founded in the year 1971 by a gentleman called Klaus Schwab. And this gentleman has been able to subvert every single government, every single business leader, celebrity, to be a part of this economic forum. Now have a look at who's there. Right now, this is Jens Stoltenberg. He's the Secretary General of NATO. Well, right now, the Secretary General of NATO is a guy called Mark Rutte. I didn't find a picture of him at the World Economic Forum because you understand which point I was trying to make. But he's also a member of the World Economic Forum in good standing. So this guy is like the military representation of World Economic Forum. Should you guys ever come up with a policy, should you guys ever do anything that marches out of the lockstep that we have predetermined for your country, this is where we're going to invoke NATO. NATO is a 32-country military alliance. All the countries in Europe, well, in Western Europe mostly, and they just tried to add Ukraine to that, and that's what set off the war with Russia and everything. But the crazy part is, right under that you see Vladimir Putin. He's a member of the World Economic Forum. He's attended Davos multiple times. Now, you guys think he's the international pariah, he's the outcast. But listen here, there's something called controlled opposition in the game of geopolitics. And sometimes you need somebody on the other side parading as if they're against you, but secretly in your control, so that everyone else who's not in your control can go and rally behind that person, and then you can identify who are your detractors. Then you will utilize that very same person to deal with the detractors. That's where the term Imbimbi would come from. Under that, we see Donald J. Trump, President of the USA. Now look at this, guys. This is Klaus Schwab. This is Klaus Schwab. This is Klaus Schwab. This is Klaus Schwab. This is the founder of the economic powerhouse called World Economic Forum, the same international community that dictates how Cyril moves. And if you just saw, you saw one of their 5 goals. Tell me something. Isn't America crying about open borders right now? Aren't they crying about the craziness that has been attached to the transgender movement? It's the same. Everyone is experiencing the same issues. And people like Putin who are not experiencing those issues, they're experiencing a certain different type, right? They're consistently in war. Perpetual war is also one of their goals because it relates to them owning Lockheed Martin and all the big military companies, Boeing, all the companies that generate the bombs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, the aircrafts, the rifles, all of those companies are members in good standing of the World Economic Forum. So nothing happens without them agreeing first and then doing it. Who you have here? Volodymyr Zelensky, president of the Ukraine. Then after that, who do you have? Xi Jinping, president of China. Now, you would think that these are men who are independent or who control their countries, who have the final say, but that's unfortunately not true. And we'll go into that in a different video as to why that's not true, why there's no country that is truly independent from the international banking system. But for now, I wanted to paint for you the picture as to why is our president Ramaphosa always advocating for, I would say, policies that are against us as nationalists. He wants open borders, multilateral governance, climate change mitigation. He wants technocratic control over public policy, gender and equality and identity-based inclusion policies. Okay. So how does this happen? How does this even to get to this point? Now, President Ramaphosa obviously uses the African National Cartel, which controls the South African government, the Republic of South Africa, right? And then the Republic of South Africa obviously has government wings, like the Department of Justice, it has the police service, and it has home affairs. So these three very important departments of the government are what help the international agenda. These three very important departments of government are what helps the international agenda to take shape in South Africa. What do I mean by saying that? Let's first understand. Okay, come here. Okay. World Economic Forum gets its funding from people who pledge. Like I told you that there are people who pledge loyalty to the World Economic Forum. And their loyalty, aka protection fee, means that they have to pay a certain amount into the World Economic Forum for membership, right? When they pay for this membership, they help the World Economic Forum to further its purposes. But something that we really haven't come to understand is the World Economic Forum, what are their goals? Besides these 5 goals that they have formed, why were they even formed in the year 1971? Where does their money to push these goals come from? Now, that takes us to a different level, right? Remember when I told you that Hendrik Verwoerd, in the year 1961, he removed South Africa Commonwealth, right? Boom, boom. The Commonwealth was basically us as South Africa admitting that we are a satellite state for England, right? But when Hendrik Verwoerd came through and decided he wants to remove South Africa from that, the problem was that there was business going on in South Africa at the time. There were mines, railways, and there were a lot of things already built in South Africa. Some by these international powers, not everything by the Afrikaners. So the Commonwealth decided, okay, you want out of us, we're going to sanction you to oblivion in the international community. Now, the international community has a bunch of billionaires who themselves were pledging allegiance to the Commonwealth. And they would pay fees into the Commonwealth. Some of them were even given honorary knighthoods for that. Stefan Schwarzman, guys, this guy owns an investment firm called Blackstone Group. Blackstone controls about $130 billion in terms of just investments on the stock market. So if these guys decide to pull their investment from your company, it is a significant day. Your company can go down by a significant margin. These are people who are whales, have big money in the industry, right? So when Verwoerd removed South Africa from the Commonwealth, they were a group of disgruntled billionaires who were part of the Commonwealth, who decided, let us advocate for South Africa to be sanctioned into oblivion. Members of the Commonwealth include people like Sir Richard Branson. I think some South Africans might know him for his ownership of Virgin Mobile, Virgin Active. If you're a gym guy, you know Virgin Active, you know Virgin Mobile, Virgin Airlines. So this guy was a member of the Commonwealth in terms of he was a pledger or whatever he was. So was Stephen Schwarzman. When South Africa removed from the Commonwealth, the international community kind of shunned them. So where does the money of the World Economic Forum comes from? It comes from the same international community that was part of the Commonwealth, because they are the same people who make donations into the World Economic Forum. People like Sir Richard Branson, George Soros, very famous guy called Bill Gates, and another famous guy called J.D. Rockefeller. I think people who know hip hop would know Rockefeller from Jay-Z's record label, which is called Rockefeller or Rock Nation right now. So the World Economic Forum gets its funding to carry out these mandates. To show you the mandates. Carry out these mandates. The World Economic Forum gets its funding to carry out these mandates from this international billionaires, right? This is only a few of them that I've placed here. Bill Gates, George Soros, J.D. Rockefeller, Sir Richard Branson. Okay. These are the people who provide the funding for the World Economic Forum. Why do they fund the World Economic Forum? Because they are of the belief that the World Economic Forum helps them to promote eugenics. This is everything that controls this world right now. Eugenics. What is eugenics? Eugenics is a belief by a certain group of people that certain genes should not be reproduced in the world and that certain genes should be bred together for stronger genes to increase the strength of the human gene, right? The human gene pool. So these people believe that eugenics is a form of evolution. They should not be a certain group of people. So this disproportionately affects people who are black, unfortunately, people who are poor, people who just generally cannot defend themselves against this world. Eugenics is then the concept that dominates the minds of global billionaires. These global billionaires truly believe in eugenics. They believe that certain populations or certain genes should not be allowed to reproduce on God's green earth. That is a different level of entitlements. That is a different level of superiority. But let me try and link it to you. So this guy, this Charles Schwab guy, the one who's the founder of the World Economic Forum, there he is. His father used to work with Adolf Hitler. His father, Klaus Schwab's father, Eugene Schwab, he used to work with Adolf Hitler. Now, Adolf Hitler was very famous for his race-based policies and his open belief that certain races are more superior than other races. This guy, Klaus Schwab, he is the son of Hitler's general, right? So World Economic Forum is a huge proponent of the eugenics belief. This guy, Bill Gates, his father, William Gates Sr., sat on the board of Planned Parenthood. No, Planned Parenthood is the company that promotes women's reproductive rights. More than reproductive rights, it just gives them the right to murder their children. It gives them rights to feel like a murder is not a murder because it was only 1 month in. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anyone. I don't mean to speak out of turn because it's stuff that I don't know about. But I'm trying to tell you that these are the people who are behind convincing our women that having a baby is not worth it, whilst at the same time pushing different propaganda for illegal immigrants and telling them have all the babies that you want, the government will take care of you. So these billionaires all gathered to pour their money into the World Economic Forum because they saw a future in South Africa or a future in the world whereby eugenics is the center of it all. Now we're going to, if we look at these people, you see that they're all of the same race, but not what you think, not just white, not the white race, but another different race of white people. So eugenics is right at the center of the beliefs that they carry. Why do I say that? For example, George Soros, right? Just to link it quickly for you before I end the stream. George Soros was actually who is the owner of the Open Society Foundation. He was actually behind the passing of same-sex marriage in South Africa. Yep, I'm sure you did not know that. So in that monumental judgment in 2005 or 2006, which was the Civil Unions Act, there was major funding, major funding, which came from this gentleman, the Open Society Foundation. They were the ones who were paying for the court bills, they were paying for the lawyers, they were paying for everything that had to do with that same-sex marriage case. Why was he so focused on that? Because that is in line with the eugenics policies. The eugenics policies say we need to have gender and identity-based inclusion policies. Basically, what they're saying is we need to try and get as many gay people out there because gay people can reproduce, and we need to try and convince as many women out there that murdering their child through abortion is their right and it's actually the smart thing to do. So that's why he was giving so much money to the same-sex marriage case, the Civil Union Acts in South Africa, which ended up passing under President Begi's tenure, and that's how we had, there he is. There's President Mbeki right there. This is the gentleman who funded the case to make sure that those people could afford lawyers, court dates, until eventually the same-sex marriage bill got passed, or the Civil Union Act. That's in line with what? That's in line with population control. That's in line with eugenics, because gay people can't reproduce. We got no beef with them, but they cannot reproduce, right? Here's another interesting piece of information, right? He was the one also behind the funding of the Children's Act. The Children's Act of South Africa was basically what made South Africa change from a state where you could discipline your child to a state where it is illegal to discipline your child. And if you discipline your child, you could face potential backlash from the law. Like in 2019, corporal punishment in and outside of the school was abolished. So you can no longer hit your child. You now have to ignore the biblical commandment that says, if you spare the rod to your child, which means if you don't hit your child, you're spoiling them, right? So now we have to go against biblical, age-old wisdom that we know works, because Sir George Soros decided we're going to fund the creation of the Children's Act in South Africa. Hence why I had to put this department here, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. This department, through lobbying and through international monetary funds and through all of these international gangsters who are sending money to South Africa, our judges are so captured. Our whole judiciary is captured. Lawmakers are captured. So these people don't pass laws for the sake of what works for the country. They only pass laws for the sake of what has the World Economic Forum given us money to pass laws for. So right now I've named 2 laws for you. The Children's Act, I've named the Civil Unions Act, and even the Employment Equity Act, where they said that they need representation of more women in the workplace. In as much as I love women having a job and working for themselves because I don't want to pay for women's lives, I also do believe that women being in the workplace doesn't serve the society as well as women being in control of their own homes. We would be producing less rapists and drug users and godless people if more people got to spend time with their mothers, who would teach them compassion, would teach them responsibility, and who would teach them wanting to protect other people outside of yourself, because your instinct to protect starts with the people that are around you. But we have come to realize that if we grow up without our mothers around, we become more psychopathic, more heartless. And my mom is at work, so I don't even know how to treat other women. I don't even know whether I respect other women. You understand what I'm saying? So him saying, look, let's push for the Employment Equity Act so that we can get more women in the workplace. It sounds very good. That's what I was saying. These people know how to weaponize language. They'll say to you, no, we need more women in the workplace because they have the right to earn their own money. But what they're really saying is we need women in the workplace because we need them to not have control over their children. We don't want them to teach their children about God. We don't want them to teach their children about family history. We don't want them to have a bond with their parents, one that is strong enough for them to want to defend their land in the presence or the absence of their parents. It's all about loosening the societal ties that make us a nation or a people so that we cannot resist the enslavement. What's the enslavement? Why do they want to depopulate the world so badly? They want to depopulate the world so badly because of eugenics, and they believe that a certain race of people. Now, guys, I'm not a racist, right? I'm not advocating for you guys to hate a certain group of people. I'm just saying the reality behind the people who run the World Economic Forum. They believe that a certain race of people has the right to exist more than another. And therefore, they will do all that they can to manage their capital in a way that leads to your destruction. So I don't want to go too deeply into that. The only thing that I was trying to actually show you guys with this whole video is you need to stop being shocked every time you see Cyril Ramaphosa making decisions that are seemingly anti-South Africans. He's not stupid. He's not incapable. He's not incompetent. He's actually a very malicious dictator with very malevolent intentions. Every time you see him speak, stop calling him cupcake. That man hates your guts. That man, remember this one time he cried during giving a speech in COVID. This is because the man knew what you are to him, where he has basically made a sacrifice with you. They're trying by all means to stop the resistance among Black natives. Chemical warfare, people are high on drugs. People are sexually confused, degenerate. People don't feel connected to their own people. Men feel like men are trash. Everyone is always saying that. They're trying to convince us that we don't deserve to be alive. They're just trying to fight a mental war because they know that once men become aware and we unite, me and my Afrikaner friend and my colored friend, my Sotho friend, my Venda friend, my Zulu friend, and we unite and say, oh, this is quite clear. It's the globalists versus the nationalists, and this is who I'm siding with. Once we get to that point, that's the only time that we stand to actually make a change to this system. But for now, if we're still going to support your own EFF, if you're still going to support my own MK party, none of it really is going to change anything. If you need to rewatch this video, rewatch it again and really understand what I'm trying to say to you. And if you feel like some of the things that I said perhaps need a bit more elaboration, don't worry, you can put that in my comments. Right now, I'm going to read the comments quickly before I end the live stream. Please make sure that you like this video. Everyone that's tuned in right now, make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel. They're obviously trying to make sure that this type of information doesn't get out. But we're going to make sure, because we are the Born Frees, and very, very important conversations need to be had. This is the Born Free Network. Extremely important conversations are going to be had regardless of what they do. So please make sure that you like this video. Please make sure that you share it with anyone that might want to learn this information. So I'm just going to read your comments quickly. Everyone that has something to say, just drop it in the comments quickly. If you have a question that you want to ask, drop it in the comments. I'm going to give you guys a quick 30 seconds to a minute. I'll read the comments, and then after that, I am going to depart the live, right? So let me read the first one. The first one says, I agree with you. It's not good to have a lot of males not working, and yet they're supposed to be leaders in households. Now, amantombazane ethu ase ezinye izinto so bad. Look, exactly. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mama Nomaswazi Shabalala. Right? That is not happening as it's not happening as a mistake. It's not an unintended consequence. This was actually the main aim, right? For us to invert our natural roles. They knew that this is going to lead us to greater mental turmoil. Women right now do not really understand why they need a man, right? Why am I going to need a man if I can provide for myself? Why do I need a man if I don't need them to protect me? I can always call the cops to protect me. Actually, I'm the man right now. How about I try being a lesbian? You know, right now we see so many men who have become females due to that's the easier way to hustle. Some men have become economically homosexual. It doesn't even come from their feelings, doesn't even come from necessity. It comes from necessity. It doesn't come from their feelings, it just comes from economic necessity. Now they're homosexuals. Women who have become masculated are very difficult to deal with. Same as women who have had multiple sexual partners. Hence why, since the sexual revolution took place and the introduction of feminism, divorce rates worldwide have skyrocketed because the dynamics between men and women have been completely wrecked. They found a way to convince women that their true role as the CEOs of the household was actually an oppressive role, and that they should seek to be CEOs outside there of the real world. But the unintended consequence of that is that they find that the real world is much more dangerous than what they think. And also, I wonder, right? I also really wonder, do women only realize that there is a concerted attack on men once they give birth to boys? Is it something that they ever realize, or is it something that they never realize? I don't know. But we're going to get into the dynamics of dating and relationships as a result of how the economy or the economic structure is right now. We're going to get into that. But most importantly, remember this. This is the Born Free Network. We are the heirs of this democracy. Therefore, very important conversations need to be had. We need to categorically reject all of these claims that are being made against our most patriotic general, Lieutenant Mkhwanazi. We need to reject that. We as a people cannot allow our government to unleash lawfare on the most faithful servants. What they're doing now, if we lay down and we allow them to do this to Mkhwanazi, this is setting a precedent for every other person that will want to whistleblow in the future. Because right now, we are laying in a pool of blood, whistleblowers' blood. Arman Swart, Babita Diokara. Actually, in closing, do you guys remember that on the 6th of July, the Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi actually said there was a cabinet member, high-ranking cabinet member, whose name had ended up in a police investigation. And due to that police investigation, due to that cabinet member's name appearing there, that police investigation ended up being stopped. Dockets were intercepted by Shadrach Spear, taken back to his office. Now, since then, we've had so much action going on. We've had people resign. We've had people declare things for us. Mashatile is now telling us that he's Mashatile millionaire with mansions. It's madness. Mashatile millionaire mansion madness. You know, triple M. It's a scam. You know, he's declaring that he's now he owns a Constantia house that's worth 30 million. Mind you, this person earns 173,000 rands per month, meaning that a monthly repayment for that house alone would be something double his salary, like 340,000 rands and above. Meaning that definitely that property was acquired illegally. Right? So we cannot allow, guys, as I'll say again, we cannot allow for our governments to pick and change and pick and choose what should be prosecuted. Shout outs to my technical right there for switching the light on because the boy is going too hard. I mean, all I care about, guys, is just delivering the information, making sure that people knows, because we are God's chosen people. God's chosen people will always be met with the most insane opposition. They'll always be met with difficulty, but it's okay. Tulani Dube, the saying is Mkhwanazi arrested. Listen, bro, there's a case that they're leveling against the general. They're saying that the general is going to face possible suspension or being fired or is possible jail time. They're saying that our general was involved in torture. They're saying our general was involved in illegal tactics to try and retrieve information from somebody who's a suspect. Now, obviously, I don't support that. I don't support the fact that there's someone like Jerry Bushokha right now, that the whole country does not know where Jerry Bushokha is right now. All we have seen is videos of him circulating as he is being abused by kidnappers. So there's a case of Jerry Bushokha that is unsolved right now. But when the General Mkhwanazi stands up to go and solve a kidnapping case that has a 35 million rand ransom, and he applies tactics, proven tactics. Guys, we know violence works in extracting of information. He used those proven tactics to carry out his interrogation on a suspect. And instead of that yielding positive results, the IPID is now working hand in hand with that suspect to launch a case against General Mkhwanazi. They want to arrest the man for doing his job. So it has become illegal in South Africa to do your job. It has become something of a crime to do your job in South Africa. That's what we're complaining about. How dare you say that the Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi needs to go to jail or be prosecuted for doing his job? That's another thing. It seems as if not just illegal immigrants seem to have a more lenient time with the law, but it seems as if you're an actual criminal connected to the cartel, it's virtually impossible for you to get arrested. Now, speaking about the cabinet member, Kenny Kunene was firstly seen at the residence of a gentleman who was later arrested and was also mentioned in the Mkhwanazi case. And then after that, he decided, guys, don't even investigate me. I'm stepping down. I don't even want to be investigated. Is it possible, guys, is it possible that Kenny Kunene was actually the high-ranking member of government that was involved in that document? Is it possible? Because, guys, let's be real. Kenny Kunene does not have a history of being pure. He and his friend, Gayton Mackenzie, presidents of the Patriotic Alliance, these people come from jail. They come from serving sentences in the new South Africa. Not even serving sentences for freedom fighting, real sentences for doing things like heists. So who knows? Perhaps he was part of that. Perhaps he was part of that cabinet. Perhaps he was part of that file that included the cabinet member. But anyways, guys, I don't want to stray too far. I'm going to do a quick recap of what the video is about, and then we are so gone. Boom. That's the video, guys. This is the video as you can see it. If any one of you wants maybe access to this graphic, just place a comment there and I'll make sure that it's available for download on my website, rabaizi.co.za. I'll make sure that you guys can at least access this diagram and see what are the deep connections between our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, our governments, the World Economic Forum, Hendrik Verwoerd, and what's the link between all of that and illegal immigrants, crime that's being committed in our country. So if you guys want to know more, make sure that you leave me a comment. Tell me, hey, Baba, please make sure that you leave us with that diagram. Because what is happening right now to Mkhwanazi? Mkhwanazi is being attacked by 3 foreigners. Now, what's worse is that these people who are opening this case against General Mkhwanazi, they're not even South Africans. Crazy stuff. One of them is Nanji. One of them is called Da Costa. One of them is called Akengeli. These are all people who are not even South Africans. And they are stepping in line as our most patriotic general is performing country duty. We need to categorically reject that. We need to make sure that we reject that. So yes, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you watch it back for anyone perhaps who does not know what is transpiring in the country right now. The accusations being leveled against Mkhwanazi, what the President Ramaphosa is saying, calling South Africans xenophobic, all of that. How does that link to the world system that our President Nelson Mandela tried to make us a part of in the year 1992, right? After we had been removed from the global economy, right? Guys, I don't want to spend too much time here. I've been live for over an hour. I don't normally do this, but thank you so much for everyone that has joined me. Please make sure you like this video. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. This is the Born Free Network. We are the heirs of this democracy, and therefore, very, very important conversations need to be had. This is your host, Flex Rabaizi. Please make sure that you share this channel. Please make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Please make sure that you share it with anyone else that you think needs to know this information that we're sharing right now on the Born Free Network. Yet again, this is the Born Free Network. We are the heirs of this democracy. Therefore, very important conversations need to be had. This is your boy, Flex Rabaizi. Up until next time, love you.